Hey, welcome back again today. Max Nafe Horsemanship. And it's just the next day, although it'll probably be next week for you when you see this video. And we're going to work with the little baby here some more. And, oh man, she's doing good. But I'm not going to bore you with a lot of the stuff we're going to do today because we're actually going to do an awful lot of the same stuff we did yesterday. And I don't think you really need to see what I'm doing. Just keep in mind that repetition is the key to success. You're going to have to do things many times over with your horse. Things aren't going to get good overnight or in one session. You might have to do it 10, 20, 30, 50 times. I don't know. It depends on you and the horse. And I know that you don't really want to watch me doing the same thing over and over. And that is largely what training is. Many of the things that you saw in the last video are the things that normally that takes a couple of weeks for all that stuff. For some strange reason, this horse, she's a little amazing, and it went a lot quicker. There's still more to work on, and when we get to the new stuff, I'll show you that. But I actually left a few things out last time, and I'm going to show you them now, because there's a couple of things. One, I think we're going to need to work on a little bit with her. She's actually getting better to catch all the time now, as you can see. And we're going to show you a little how to teach a horse to be caught. Now, there's a difference between teaching a horse to be caught and catching a horse. There is a difference. And some people don't understand the difference, but if you teach a horse to be caught, it makes catching much, much easier. And I didn't actually show you one of the ways. I did show you one of the, some of the different methods of approaching and that sort of thing, but I didn't show you one. I was going to, and I just plain old forgot. There was a couple other things I was going to show you too that I forgot to show you, but I'm blaming that on her because I was so overwhelmed by her progress and how good she did on certain things. I just kind of completely distracted me, threw me off track, and I forgot all about some of the other things I was going to show you, because they're things I normally would have been doing in the process of getting her to do things, but it didn't happen because we didn't need to, because she's such an extraordinary little horse. So, but they're things you need to know anyhow, because there's a very good chance you are going to need to do them. And I'm going to show you what they are. But one of the first things I'm going to do, as you can see, there's no halter on her now, because as soon as we get in here, I take the lead and halter off so she can run around and be free to do whatever she wants. And that's also going to be partly so that I can demonstrate to you one of the things that you can do to teach a horse to be caught. She just got a little excited about something. I don't know what. Must have heard a car door, a dog, or something. I don't know. Anyhow, but that doesn't matter. Now, for what I'm going to demonstrate here, it's probably going to be a little difficult. I'm going to have to move the camera quite a ways back so you get to see most of the round pan. And well, at that point, I'm going to be a long ways away, and I'm going to be pretty tiny, so is the horse. And you probably won't even be able to see the rope I'm using. But I'm going to explain what I'm doing as I go anyhow, so that you have a good idea what it is that's going on, because I think you need to know. And yeah, we're out here in the snow again, outside. And I'm doing this, partly because, well, that's what we got to do around here. We don't have an indoor facility to work in. So, and a lot of you aren't going to either. Not many people will. If you have a large enough barn that there's room for you to, big open space in there you can work in, you can do quite a few things in there too. Little things involved with, just moving the horse around a little bit if you don't need much room. But a lot of you aren't going to have that. You're just going to be outside just like I am. So you're going to have to deal with the same stuff I'm dealing with, or is it the other way around? I can't know. Anyhow, I'm far enough north that, as you can see, there's snow. It gets cold. We just had a stretch of about a week where it was 30 below straight. Today's actually pretty decent. It's right over and around the freeze point, so it's not a horrible day by our standards. It's pretty nice out, actually. And so I'm outside playing with the horsey. And you'll notice I've even got my lighter coat on again, because it's not that horrible, but I still got the insulated bibs on that help keep my legs warm, because if I'm out here for quite a while, sometimes you need a little bit of extra on you. It's not like you're just going from the house to the car and back kind of thing. So Oh, another thing about yesterday was a little unusual is I actually was looking at the time on that one, and even after editing, it was still pretty close to an hour long. And normally with a youngster like this, you wouldn't spend that much time. And that's something a lot of guys think you spend an hour with a horse at a time for a session. Session should be an hour long. I've talked about this stuff before, and it's like, no, that's not true. Sometimes you can accomplish quite a bit in just a few minutes. And in the case of a youngster, they're like kids. At a very young age, they've got a very short attention span, and she might lose interest pretty quick. So you got to be careful how long. Yesterday's session with her was actually much longer than it should have been for something this young. But she was still making progress. I actually called it quits before she did, just so that she wouldn't. I don't want to get her to that point. So that's kind of what we did. So anyhow, I'm going to move the camera back so you can see a little bit more what I'm going to do. And I'm going to show you how you teach a horse to be caught. Another one of the things that you do when you want the horse to come to you. And I've done this on a number of occasions. Keep in mind, it does not work with every single horse. And this is one of those things I say a good horseman has to be flexible, because not everything always works. Every horse is a little bit different. And last time I tried it with this horse, I did just briefly try it. And it didn't work terribly well, but it did kind of work. So I'm going to try it again today and see what happens. And it's a rather simple principle that can be used. I've used it many times. I've only ever found one horse that it did not work on. And I used something different that I saw somebody else use, and that seemed to work. So eventually, in the end, we did achieve what we wanted. I had to go about it a little different, though. I had to be flexible. I didn't get stuck with, this is how I'm going to do things. No, I was willing to try something different, and it did work. But let me reset the camera, and I'll show you what we normally do. We're back with you. Hope this works out okay for you. Now what I'm going to use here, I don't know if you can even see what I got in my hand, but it's actually my lunge whip is what I'm going to use today. Now you don't have to use a lunge whip. This is actually a modified one. I've shortened down the shaft on it and took the core out of the string, so it's pretty light. And one of the reasons I like using this one is because it is quite light. My arm doesn't get tired waving it around. The same process I've seen done with a stick and string. Works just fine. I've also done it with my lead rope, just slapping it on the ground. Also is effective. And you could do that too. I've never tried a flag, but I'm sure that would probably work as well. There's probably a number of things that you can use, but this is what we're going to use today. Now, the way this works is if the horse is not paying attention to you, you put pressure on it. Now, I'm going to actually have trouble doing this today because she's really, okay, she's moving away. Good. This is perfect. I'm going to start swinging this thing back and forth. And as soon as she turns to me, I'll stop, take a step back. And you'll see she comes into me. And that's exactly what you want. Now, this is way too easy because I actually did it very briefly once before with her. But this is what you do if you want to teach a horse to be caught. When you want it to come to you, you drive it away. Now, again, she's following me around, so this is not going to work too well, but I'm going to see if maybe I can get her to go away. Okay, she's looking away now. I'm going to wave this thing. And right away, she turns to me. Her attention's on me. She takes a couple steps towards me. And this is how it works. Now, normally, the horse would be probably at the other end of the round pen, and you do this. But every time it turns its head, some guys will actually go so far as to say if it even turns an ear to you. But my eyesight's not that good, and I don't always notice, especially with a horse that's as fuzzy as this one on top. You don't see the ears moving that well. But I definitely see the head. There's no question about that one. And when she looks at me, I'll stop swinging this thing and take a step back. Now, the principle behind this is when they're ignoring you, there's pressure on them. And, I've done this in a round pen, in an arena, even out in a fairly large pasture. It works even out there. It just takes longer if it's a bigger area. In a smaller area like this, oh, she's gonna, no, she's still hooked on. Every time I move, she turns to me. So I'm gonna have a hard time doing this. But the theory is the same. And again, you can use your lead rope and just swing it around and slap. Make sure it hits the ground so lots of noise. With this one, she's pretty sensitive. I don't have to make a lot of noise. So this is fine. This works. And honestly, this is a lot lighter. I prefer to use this. But if I'm out in the pasture doing this, I'll probably just use my lead rope so I don't have to carry more things with me. Because when I'm trying to catch the horse, I'm going to want that halter and lead rope with me anyhow for catching the horse. And I don't want to, so it kind of has to be with me. And I don't want to have to carry this as well. So, but in a round pen or an arena or something like that, this works just fine. It's a great tool, and it's nice and light. Even my lead rope swinging that thing, it's a lot heavier, and it wears on your arm after a while swinging that thing. But this is something that you can do. I'm sorry, I really can't give you a better demonstration than this. But this is one of the first things I was going to show you yesterday. And I actually did do a video on this a while back on how to catch a horse by driving it away using, something like this. You can just, if the horse ignores you or moves away from you, you just start slapping the ground and swinging the thing around. And every time the horse turns and looks at you, you just stop doing that and take a step back. Again, doesn't matter if you're using a stick or string, use your lead rope, use your lunge whip, you can use anything you want. It's all going to work. And that's exactly how it works. And like I said, she won't stop paying attention to me, so I can't really do anything. And I'm not going to drive her off just for the purpose of demonstration, because that's kind of counterproductive. I don't want her to think that this thing means get going. Okay, she's moving away. I'm going to start doing it again. And what's really interesting with this one is most horses get pretty concerned when you do this. She doesn't. So I think desensitizing when we get to that stage is going to be pretty easy, because things don't get her too excited. But that was just I've only been able to give you a couple of very quick little examples, but oh, there she goes again. She's going away. I'm going to wave this thing, and as soon as I do, right away, she's paying attention again. Yeah, that's acceptable. She's looking at me. She's paying attention, so I'm not going to do anything. But that's how you can teach a horse to be caught. And so you don't have to chase it around and sneak up on it and stuff like that, because that's not the way it works. I like it when they're this easy to approach and catch. This is what I want. And she's been improving rapidly. Even today when I went out in the pasture to catch her, I put the rope on and put the halter on, and that didn't take more than a couple minutes this time. And we've only been working on this now for about a week. And many times just briefly, like I said, a lot of the times out in the pasture, didn't even take time to set up the camera, because it was just a matter of a few minutes. But once we got to the point where she would let us approach her, good enough. I'm happy with that. Once we could touch her with a rope, I was happy with that. When we got to the point where we could actually throw a rope over her, I was ecstatic. And then we would kind of take it off, repeat the process several times without actually, tightening it up around her neck or anything. And I was going to mention something else too, that I mentioned how the face is quite sensitive and they're very protective of it. And it was one of the things that actually kind of crossed my mind, is that maybe her experience with ropes had something to do with, at some point, somebody, and this may have even happened accidentally even, somebody swatted her in the face with a rope. And that would be the kind of thing that would be enough to set her off and say, hey, ropes are bad. They're going to hit me in the face. And that might be why she has such a dislike or distrust for ropes, and why we're having an issue with them. But it is getting better. She's realizing that I don't do anything. Nothing bad ever happens around here when it comes to ropes, that ropes don't hurt her. They don't do anything bad to her. They don't scare her, any of that stuff. So we got that part going with it. So anyhow, I'm going to move the... I can't do much more. She won't go away. I don't get this. I really don't. But she won't go away, so I can't really show you anymore. But I think I've explained it to you enough and give you enough very brief demonstrations. This is, sometimes you might have to be swinging your lead or your whip or your whatever you're using for, 5, 10, 15 minutes even before the horse even looks at you. Now, don't think it's going to go this fast. Like I mentioned it yesterday, and I'm going to say it again. I'll probably say it a few more times. This horse isn't normal. Don't expect this. The progress that we're having with this one is just overwhelming. And all the horses I've dealt with, I don't think I've ever dealt with one that came around this fast. So don't expect this stuff. And but like I said, when it comes to catching, it's not going to be this easy. You may be swinging your rope or whatever you're using for 10, 15 minutes before the horse even looks at you the first time. You're not going to hit the horse with it. You're not really chasing the horse. But if you're in a larger area, you will follow the horse around. And even in a round pen, it's a big enough area here that if she was to decide to go over there, I'm just going to keep waving this thing and I'm going to move towards her. I'm not going to try and hit her with it. That's never ever our goal, is to try and hit the horse. We're trying to improve things, not make things worse. So we're not trying to hit it, but we're going to put the pressure on until it looks at us. And as soon as it looks at it, I'm going to stop. And in the case of this one, because this thing doesn't really seem to have a huge effect on her, I was actually swatting the ground right in front and behind her, alternately, back and forth, and I didn't phase her at all. And then eventually she finally looked at me. I stopped doing that, took a step back, and we did that a few times, and it wasn't long, and she would actually turn to us. And we just kept repeating the process, and each time we did it, she turned to us, which is the first thing you want. The fact that she actually comes right up to me now is really surprising. That's something I wasn't expecting to have happen yet. And it's not something you necessarily want either. You don't really want your horse on top of you. I would be just as happy if she was standing at the edge of the round pen, as long as she's paying attention to me. I'd be quite happy with that. But I'm not going to drive her off right now because I'm still at the point of, trying to catch her. She's still pretty iffy about, I got to approach slowly and stuff. I can't just walk right up to her. That would be a little too much for her. So we're still at the point of, we've got to be careful how we do things with her. And so I'm not going to drive her off, even though I would prefer not to have her this close. I'm going to actually tolerate it for now. She's still being respectful. I did a video on personal space one time, and I said, in that one, and it's always been my philosophy, is whether or not they're in your personal space is not as important as how they behave when they're in your personal space. However, if I do want her to stay out of my space, I demonstrated yesterday how I just wiggled the flag in front of me to get her to move out from me. I didn't want her on top of me, because that can actually end badly, and you don't really want that. So, but I'm going to, and on that note though, I'm going to show you some other things I forgot to mention, because she just threw me for a loop and I got off track. But I'm going to bring the camera back in so you can actually see what I'm doing. And what's really interesting is every time I leave the round pen and she's by herself, she gets pretty excited and starts running around and whinnying and things like that. But as soon as I'm here, all of a sudden she's quite content to just stand here with me and motionless, pretty much. Kind of neat. So obviously I'm giving her some comfort. She likes to be with me now. Something about me works for her. And that's kind of one of those things you want. Anyhow, bring you back in a minute with the camera a little bit closer. I'm going to talk about some other things. Okay, one of the things I showed you yesterday that I didn't really show you all of, it was when I asked her to move around me. The very first time you do that is absolutely not going to work like that, man. And even the point, cluck, and flag routine, well, there's a little bit more to that I didn't go into. It's how you use the flag, and the flag is important in how you use it, and it depends a little bit on the horse too, because in some horse cases all you got to do is just lift it up a little bit like that, and the horse starts moving. Sometimes you got to stick it way out. Sometimes you have to hold it in front of you and shake it really hard. Now, one of the things you want to do is, and this, like I say, every horse is a little different. Most horses you don't want to go after the back end to drive it forward, although most people think that's the way to do things. What can happen is if you were to go after the back end, she might just move it over. Like that. See that? She just moved the back end over. She didn't go forward. And guess what? Direction is she pointing now? Right at me. And that can end badly if the horse gets nervous and jumps forward. It's going to hit you. You don't want that. What you want to do is you want to aim your energy with the flag basically right about there. The same general area that you would normally have your leg when you're riding. Because that's what you want to teach the horse. That keeps it out from you, and it learns to go forward off of energy in that area, which would be the same as when you're riding and you give a squeeze with your legs to make the horse move forward, because that's a pretty typical way of doing things. Some people kick. I don't like that. I like a gentle squeeze. And if a horse is trained for it, they'll go off a gentle squeeze. I've never had to kick a horse. Well, okay, that's not true. I did have one I had to kick once. Anyhow, we won't go there. But that was one of the things I wanted to show you is where you direct your flag. That area right there is where you want to do it. Now, actually, this is working really well because she's not getting too concerned about this flag when it doesn't mean anything, because I haven't cued her to move yet. So this is something we'll be working on later. I'll show you a little more about desensitizing with the flag, so they learn that sometimes the flag means absolutely nothing at all. Sometimes it means you do something. But usually by the time they get to that point, you don't have to use it to tell them to do something. They'll do it anyhow. But I wanted to show that one to you. And like I said, when the horse was going around me, at one point she was a little bit too close. I had the flag in front of me like this. I just wiggled it a little bit and she moved out. And basically, I was directing my energy right here. Same in that area that I was talking about. And that basically pushed her away from me. I'm waiting for her to whinny. There she goes. She's talking back to another one who was talking to another one. And yeah, things get a little weird around here sometimes. But that was another one of those things that I was going to tell you the importance of. And keeping the horse at a distance, which I'm going to start doing right now. And, oh man, she is not... Okay, I want her to... There we go, that's better. She's backed up a little bit. She's not oversensitive to this flag. That's actually good in a way. That tells me a little bit what to look forward to in the future, because eventually I'm going to desensitize her to this thing so I can rub her all over with it and she don't give a crap. I can wave it around. That's one of the things you want to be able to do. You want to be able to wave it around like this. Right now it still bothers her a bit. You see her head pop up every time I do this, but I'm doing it away from her so that it's not really telling her to do anything. I see her moving that way. There we go. Good girl. But eventually, that we're going to do this so that when I wave this thing all over the place, it means absolutely nothing unless I've already asked her to do something. And actually, I had a good question asked one time: is how does the horse know when the flag means something and when it doesn't? Good question. Excellent question. Actually, I'd never even given it much thought until I was asked. But it's context, because you never use the flag in that sense unless you've already asked the horse to do something, in which case then they know you mean business. For example, if I was to ask her to do something and she didn't do it, which I'm not going to do right now because she'll probably do it anyhow. If I ask her to do something and she doesn't do it, I'll resort to the flag. And then she knows the flag means something because I already preceded that by a cue. The point, the clock, then the flag. Now, if I was just go straight to the flag, it would mean nothing to her and she wouldn't react to it. At least that's what you want eventually, is that the flag doesn't mean a darn thing unless it's preceded by a cue. And that's kind of how the horse gets to know when the flag means something, when it doesn't. And well, there was something else too I was going to talk about. Oh, right, when you want to get the horse moving, this is important too, because I see this done right and wrong a lot. And this goes right along with where you direct the flag, at which part of the horse, which part you want it to move, what direction you want it to move. You actually have a lot more control over that than you realize. And I'm going to demonstrate something here. I'm going to have, say, now I should have a little bigger circle. I should have about a 3-foot circle, but let's say I do have a 3-foot circle here. I'm going to go stand in the middle of it. Now if I want that horse, now she's getting too close. I don't want her that close. There we go. That's okay. But this is where how you ask the horse to move around you. What a great little horse. This thing is ridiculous. One of the mistakes that a lot of people make when they do this is they'll actually pull on the lead to get the horse moving. And what that does is it pulls the horse in towards you. And another thing you will never ever do is back up, unless you're trying to draw the horse into you. But when you're doing something like this, you'll notice my feet are never going backwards. I'm moving forward. I'm still basically in my little 3-foot circle, but I'm moving forward. I'm not backing up, because if I was to back up, watch what she does. She comes into me. And that means that she could potentially come into my little space and end up on top of me, and I could get hurt. So when a horse is, you're first asking your horse to move, it can get flustered quite easily, and that's when you're at the greatest risk. If you do something like that wrong, that horse might jump and land on top of you. You don't want that. No, that's a bad thing, and that's one of the biggest mistakes. It's a combination of how you use your lead rope, how you use your feet, and how you use your flag. Keep the horse out in a position where it does this nice calm walking around like you just saw her doing, and keeps her at a safe distance for you. And I remember that safety. I emphasize safety a lot in my videos, because horses can be incredibly dangerous if you do things wrong, and it's your own darn fault if you get hurt. I almost got hurt one day with her, and it was my own fault. The one and only time she almost kicked me. This horse is not prone to kicking. She's actually a real good temperament in that respect. She's not inclined to do stuff like that. But she had her head in a pail and eating some food, and I come up beside her and reached out and touched her, and she wasn't expecting me to be there. I kind of surprised her, and she took a kick at me. Now, she wasn't really trying to make contact. It was more get away from my food kind of a thing. And then she realized who it was and went, oops, I better not do that. And she actually stepped away and actually left her food, which was pretty neat that she did that. But she left the food and she moved away from me. She never actually made contact. It was more of a just back off, get away from my food kind of a thing. And then she realized who it was. But the entire thing was my fault, because I surprised her. She was distracted by the food. And now she's using my hand for a scratching post. That's not a good thing. I shouldn't be allowing that to happen. But I am so glad she's letting me touch her face like this. That is so sweet. Remarkable. Somebody left a comment on my last video about how cute she was, and yeah, babies are all cute. They're really stinking cute, and sometimes it's really tempting to let them get away with things just because they're so darn cute, and I get it, but you can't do that. Like I said, I'm not a scratching post. She is not allowed to be rubbing on me like that, because when they get bigger, they can knock you right over doing that. It's very easy for that to happen if you're not expecting. All of a sudden, the horse starts rubbing on you, and next thing you know, you go flying and get hurt. And you don't want that. So it's important that even at a young age like this, you don't allow that stuff. If she starts doing that again, I'm going to do something to stop her. I'm either going to wiggle the flag, or maybe I'll give her a little poke in the nose with my finger or something, just to get her to back off so she doesn't do that. And if she starts doing it, she's being pretty good right now. She's just standing there, not even touching me. She's very close to me, but she's not touching me. So like I said, where they are is not as important as how they behave when they're there. So that's a couple of things, though, and I thought they were pretty important. Well, first off, that little thing, how you catch a horse is kind of important. It's one of many methods that can be employed, and that's actually not just catching the horse, but teaching it how to be caught. And then when you ask your horse to move, there's several elements there: how you use your flag, how you use a lead, and what you do with your feet. And you'll notice that in a horse world, I should explain the importance of the feet thing. in the horse world, dominance hierarchy is determined amongst horses by who moves who. And if that horse makes me move, if I take a step back, all of a sudden she's dominant over me, and I've lost it. I have no authority over her anymore. And it can really be a bad thing, depending on how you do it, especially if it happens more than once. But by always moving into the horse, I'm maintaining my dominance over the horse. I am its leader. I am in charge of it, and it has to do what I say. And if I say, you get out of my space, because I'm coming over here, I'm moving over here. Yep, just like that. See that? See that? I just did it with an authority. She sensed it. I didn't have to do anything other than just simply move. And she knows I'm not playing around. You get out of my way. And I can walk through an entire herd of horses like that, having that attitude that, no, I'm not moving for you, you're moving for me. And I've done that even with the lead horses, the high horse in the herd. He got in my way one day. I think he just wanted treats or something. He was a nice guy. But I looked at him. It was one of the first times I met him, and I thought, you know what? I've got two choices right now. Either I go around you or you get out of my way. And that kind of will set the standard. And I simply decided, no, you're getting out of my way. I'm not going around you. And from that time on, I never had a problem with him. If he saw me in his presence, and he was being that he was the leader, he had his own little harem, and he would have, several mares hanging around with him. They liked him because he was the boss man, and that's kind of how it works. And they would all stop and wait for me. And all because once I made him move. It was that simple. And so it's very important when you're working with a horse, any horse, that the horse moves, you do not move. That horse has got more legs than he's got twice as many legs, well, she has, I should say, not he. She has twice as many legs as I got. She can darn well move. It's less work for her to walk. She is walking within minutes of being born. They know how to use those feet, and they can darn well use them. They got four-hoof drive. I only got two-wheel drive, two-foot drive, whatever. It's easier for them to move than me. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not moving for the horse. The horse is moving for me. And that's the way it must be, always. And, that's one of those things that, in a way, it's not really part of training, but it is. And it goes back to, I was talking yesterday about leadership, and how your hierarchy in the herd, or with the horse you're working with at least, is very, very important. You must be dominant. You must be higher. And when, a lot of people get real confused with this one, and because they've seen so many bad examples, they don't like the term dominant because it goes, oh, you're a bully, you're a control freak, and all this stuff. No, I'm not. And you're taking it out of context. And leadership, if you actually ever look it up, a leader is somebody that walks in front. They're not somebody that pushes you from behind or stands in a corner giving orders. And think of it that way. Being a good leader is, come on, let's go. I'm going to keep you safe. That's what a good leader is. And, some people that are into religion, says in the Bible, God gave man dominion over the animals. Well, if you ever look up that word dominion and what it means, it actually means that you're responsible for them. You're the caretaker. It doesn't mean you're the bully. It means you're the caretaker. You have responsibility to look after the best interest of this animal. That's what that means, if you look up that word. So if you're into that kind of stuff, that's what it means. Like I said, leadership, very important. Lots of good horsemen I've seen, they actually teach that stuff. They teach all the aspects of leadership without ever once mentioning the word, because so many people right now have got such a bad taste about it because they've seen so many bad examples. And honestly, there are. I've seen them myself. And if I based my belief on leadership on what I've seen, as far as the examples that I've seen set, I wouldn't want anything to do with it. But I know what proper leadership is and how important it is, and I am going to use it. And I'm going to encourage other people to use it. And if I have to actually use the darn word that people hate, I'm going to talk about leadership. because it's that important. It's essential. I mean it. I said that yesterday. It's essential. And I just showed you with this one, when I step towards her, that's all part of leadership, is I'm dominant over this horse. She gets out of my way. I'm not getting out of her way. I don't back up, I move forward. And I don't pull on the lead, I just point the direction I want her to go. Again, I don't force. That's another one of those things. That's part of the, I don't force. I ask. I ask the horse to go by pointing. I don't force it to go by pulling on the lead, which I don't actually have to do when I'm leading her. And that's another thing that I'm going to be working on with her. We haven't done extensively, is some leading. Haven't really done much of that. I am going to do some more of that now. And but I don't want to bore you with that. But I'm going to do I'm probably going to include that in the next video. We'll have a little more under our belt, so to speak, and we'll show you what we're doing in that regard, because getting a horse to lead well is quite important sometimes, and doing it right is quite important. She's moving in on me. I didn't ask you to, dear. As one guy would say, that's unrequested forward motion. And I didn't ask her to move. And just like I did yesterday, I asked her to back up. I'm just going to put an open hand on the halter there, push back. And she's a little confused. She hasn't done this many times, but there. That's how easy she backs up. She moved forward again. I'm making her back up. So she realizes when she backs up, she has to stay there. There, that's better. See that? She squared up and stayed there. Oh, she's sneaking in. So little, only one step, but I think that's one too many. There we go. These are things that they may seem insignificant. She only moved 6 inches. In fact, she only moved 1 foot 6 inches. And it may seem insignificant, but if you don't do something about it now, it becomes a problem later on. She just took another step. I'm going to correct her by moving her back. I just had the lightest touch on the halter, and she moved back. She knew what was wanted from her and what her responsibility was. And, this is those things, are little things that in the end all add up. And, okay, she's going to scratch her nose on her leg, I think. Looked like she was heading that direction, but no, I'm going to back her up. That foot moved forward. It's not quite back where I want it. No, you're not going to rub on me, dear. And I didn't get rough with her. I just kind of bumped her with the side of my arm because that was what she was rubbing on. So it's like, no, don't do that. And she doesn't take offense to it. This is just information. I mentioned this yesterday. Horses don't take offense. They don't take stuff personal. It's just information. And she's just got information that says, don't rub on them. That's all. She's not going to take that personal. She's not going to take offense to it. As you can see, she's still standing here on a loose lead. She's not avoiding me now. She didn't take offense to that. But I wasn't mean about it either. I was very nonchalant. My energy didn't change. I didn't get angry or upset about it. I just decided, nope, I must do something about it. That's my responsibility. And the whole process of training and teaching a horse to behave well and have good manners, it's very important because can't remember who it was that said it. I think it was Steve Smith. No, not the comedian. The guy that trained Secretariat. I think that's who it was. I can't remember for sure. No, I didn't ask you to move, dear. See, she's sneaking in on me again. There. Put her back where I want her. I didn't ask her to move. But, well, it doesn't really matter who it was that said it anyhow. The point was, what they said was, if you train up your horse well, so that it's a pleasure to be around, if anything should ever happen to you, that horse will always have a good home. And that's kind of what you want for any horse, is you want a horse that people want to be around, that it's safe to be around. It's easily handled and controlled and all this stuff. And so training is actually quite important for the horse's well-being, because it's got a future if it's well trained. If it's spoiled, rotten, and poorly trained, that horse has no future. Nobody wants it. And it'll probably end up as meat. And that's a little harsh saying something like that, but that is a fact. The horse will probably wind up as meat if you don't train it properly and you spoil it. Spoiling can be as bad for a horse as abuse. It can create a dangerous horse. I've talked about that in another video quite some time ago. I probably haven't talked about it for a long time, but that's one of the reasons we're doing all this stuff with this horse. Every little thing that we do. Some of them seem absolutely insignificant, but every one of them serves a purpose, and they all add up, and eventually we have this absolutely wonderful little horse that everybody's going to want to be around. And quite frankly, the way she's progressing, I'm really starting to like this horse, and I almost wish she was mine, but she's not. So. And, well, the last one that I had that I trained from scratch, and then I sold him, he was a 1 in a million, that guy. And I'll tell you, if I ever come across another horse like that, I'm not selling him. Lovely little horse. Absolutely lovely. But I took my time. He had good personality to begin with. I took my time and preserved that personality. I didn't damage him. And I went slow like I'm doing with this one. And in the end, we had an absolutely incredible horse that I really, you know, from day one when I got him, the whole purpose of getting him was to train him up and then sell him, which is exactly what I ended up doing, but it ended up taking a little bit longer than I planned on, because even when he was fully trained, I was quite hesitant to train him and sell him because I really liked him and I wanted to keep him. I want to keep them all. But you can't do that. Oh, gosh, what are we going to do here? Anyhow, I think we're going to shut this video off for now. I'm going to continue working with this one. I think since we've already got the halter lead on her, we're going to work on leading a little bit. Seems like the thing to do. I try not to have too much of a schedule or a plan. I like to have a general idea of something I'm going to do. But when it comes right down to it, a lot of times you end up doing whatever is required at the time or whatever, because a lot of times you have a plan. You're going to say, oh, I'm going to do this, that, or the other thing with a horse, and all of a sudden a whole new problem comes up. And, well, guess what? You're going to change your plans. You're going to work on that one instead, because that's the way it goes. You got to be flexible. I've said that before. Being flexible, very important. You have to be willing to change your plans, change what you're doing, and do what is necessary. Because what you had in mind isn't always what is necessary. And, well, and I know, been there, done it. So I'm speaking from experience that, you know, your plans will change. I come out here some days thinking, well, whether it's here or anywhere else, doesn't matter. I come out thinking, I'm going to do this, that, or the other thing. I start working with a horse, a certain behavior pops up that I don't really like, and I may spend a half an hour working on that instead and never actually get to what I'm working on, or what I wanted to work on, I should say. So anyhow, I'm going to continue on with this one. I'm going to shut this video down for now, and I'll be back with you guys later. See you next week, and by that time we'll be working on something a little bit different, and show you what we're working on and how to do it. Because that's what this is all about, and that's the opportunity we're taking with this fresh little horse here, getting to show you what you have to do. Unfortunately, this one is so darn good that we really are having trouble showing you some of the stuff, because she is just so incredibly good. I have seen few adult horses that are already being ridden that are as good as this one. So there you go. Don't expect your horse to be as good as this one. But hopefully this will give you some ideas. That's what I'm really shooting for. I actually almost wish she was a whole lot worse than she is. It'd really make for better videos. Oh well. Meantime, have a good day and go play with your horse. Bye now.